Hello and welcome to Dialogue with Dozie. Having some audio problems trying to work this out. Okay, now I can hear what's going on. Monday night, 8 p.m., YouTube, Facebook Live. How about you? Back at it again, Dialogue with Dozie. Nice a hot button Monday. You got to make this show work tonight. I'm going to need your help. I need your chat. I need you to put it in the chat. I need to let you know what's going on. Let's make this a show tonight. It's a hot button Monday. The boy riding solo. Let's make it happen nonetheless. Okay, a lot of stuff going on. So the way we're going to do tonight's show, half of it is going to be news, and goodness knows Orange, whatever you want to put in that blank line, he has given us enough news to cover the whole week. I'm still trying to locate one 45 supporter through all of the craziness that has gone on the last year, all of the court stuff, all of the things that they're trying to do to postpone the trials, so he hopefully on their part would get elected. I'm trying to get somebody to come on and defend all of that, not to defend it, but to tell me, how can you support this guy after all that? That's the only reason we haven't done that show. I don't want to sit here and have all people who are like-minded like me, who are wondering why, how can you support them, why are you supporting? When you had a field of other candidates, even though the guy from down here, we wouldn't consider him much of a candidate. So let me just make an apology up front. We don't have any graphics for tonight's show. It's been a day, but you're going to make it a great show for us. It's going to be a great dialogue. In my mind, I keep hearing our former intro music. Ain't that neat? The way she keeps the beat. They call it Animals. Kind of missed that. Maybe we get the rights to play that. Working on it. We love what we got, and we're so grateful. Madam Producer does this great job. Right now, we want to talk about the State of the Union and just get some reaction, the fallout from it, the aftermath from it, all those things. And we're going to look at, on the other side of the break tonight, we're going to go. We're going to do sports. There's a lot of stuff going on with free agency, the basketball, NBA races are beginning to shape up. And we had an interesting thing happen today between two SEC rivals, two teams that vie perennially for the NCAA championship, but they also fight for the SEC crown. And guess what? I'm not talking about guys. I'm talking about University of South Carolina, Don Staley's team, who finished 34-0 this year, and I'm talking about the LSU Tigers, the current national champions in the ladies division, NCAAW. There was a little incident that occurred, so we're going to talk about that on the other side, as well as free agency, basketball. I think two old guys, some are fighting each other, Mike Tyson and some other fossil. We're not going to give that a whole lot of energy. We're going to mention it, but we need you to come on tonight and comment with us and share your comments to make this a show. It's Hot Button Monday night dialogue with Dozie. We started 4 years ago, during the pandemic. Boy got in front of a Facebook Live camera, started talking about culture, politics, sports, anything that the many viewers who were watching us when we were stuck in our various man and lady caves talked about, and we did it. Madam Producer, who happens to be our oldest daughter, we're so grateful for her and the services that she and her team of Toya and Makia and others provide, picked us up and makes this show look like it is. We'll talk more about that. But let's get right into what's going on. Thursday night, the president gave the annual State of the Union message. And I guess the way to say it is that he came out fighting. Maybe some of you, I'm bouncing back and forth between culture, news, and sports. Some of you may remember the fantastic 3 rounds of boxing. Oh, I guess it's been 35 years ago, at least, maybe 40 years ago, between the late, great, marvelous Marvin Hagler and the Detroit hitman, Thomas Hearns. And if you remember the game Battling Tops, where you and your brother or somebody, you sit down and you wound up these little tops, and it was a rounded blue ring, and you wind them up with a piece of thread that the manufacturer put together. I think it was Milton Bradley. You tied it up, and you pulled, and somebody else pulled, and had a spot for four fighters at the same time. You pull that cord on the go signal, and then they came out, and the last one standing won that round. Well, that's what that fight was like. That's what that fight was like between Marvelous Marvin Hagler and the Detroit Hitman Thomas Hearns. It was like a Ballantops fight where they came out fighting and they came at each other. They went at each other for like 3 rounds. Marvin Hagler, why can't I say Marvin Hagler? Marvin ended up prevailing in the 3rd round, and he knocked the Hitman out. But that will always go down. We've seen a lot of great fights. That was probably the best 3 rounds of boxing that you'll see everywhere. They had boxing here, everything. President Joseph R. Biden came out on Thursday night, a little bit after 9 p.m. Eastern time. He came out like somebody had pulled him from a Ballantops arena, and he challenged the status quo. He challenged the Republican Congress, who gave him a compromise bill that both sides of the aisles had agreed on for the border. The Senate had pushed and passed. And all of a sudden, that orange guy told them to hold off on that because that would energize and give the president too much good publicity leading into the election. And they pull the plug, and nobody can give a legitimate, all of a sudden the things that they compromised, the things that they agreed to, the things that Lindsey Graham said, this is as good as it's going to get, as good as we've ever seen. It provided more border patrol officers, more judges, so the system could be processed more. And it had a built-in process that said that if 5,000 people or more on the border, that border is shut down that day. Everything was agreed upon on both sides of the aisles, and they shut it down because the word out of Mar-a-Lago was cut it down. Let's not give this president any political victories during this political season. He came out, he said, and somebody questioned him, he said, oh, what's her name? Molly, whatever that different lady is out of Georgia, the Republican representative, Molly, what is her name? Green, what's her last name? Anyway, she comes out, she appears, she broke all kind of not only decorum, but the rules of the House. She had a MAGA hat on, and she gave the president a badge of a young lady who had been killed by immigrant, and we know that criminal elements have crossed our border, have been killed. To the University of Georgia student, and she gave her that badge and told him, do you see what happened because of your policies? And the president called her out on it because he mentioned it. He said, if you all are saying this is what causes it, then help me get this border bill passed. Well, he came out with that. He came out pointing at Republicans about their assault on democracy, and he made a very impassioned appeal to them to remember the January the 6th and to say, let's go back to the days when we had civility, with differences in ideology, yes, differences in ways to achieve an end. But this whole thing about one man has just hijacked the party, and because you're scared that he's going to get you primaried and cause you to be beaten and lose your house, so you lose your seat, your House seat, or your Senate seat, you put your entire integrity, your character, and everything on the line, and you just surrender. And how about this? Mitch McConnell, who is the outgoing minority leader of the Senate, who did some very nefarious things during his season, and the main thing was holding up President Obama's Supreme Court appointment, and it led to the court being totally tilted to the right, which it'll stay that way likely throughout all of people in my age range's lifetime. And of course, Festus ain't going nowhere because he's not going to retire as long as they have that majority. And I'm not going to talk about his wife. Y'all know who he is. So the president came out striking, just like somebody had released him from Ballantops. And whenever there was disrespect that was hollered out at him, he addressed it. And he addressed it in a very civil manner. He questioned and said, I want your help. Let's make this happen. This is about democracy. He did all of those things. He was a true statesman. And so I turned over on Fox News as soon as it went off. And when I turned over to Fox News, Sean Hannity came out and said, "Did you just see that? An angry old white man. Let's just call it, look like he came out on steroids. This is call him Jacked Up Joe." That's what he called him. So he goes from Sleepy Joe to Jacked Up Joe. He addressed everything in that State of the Union. It was one of the most energetic. He kind of disavowed the age thing. He came back at the end and said, "Hey, I am old. My opponent is no spring chicken. He's just a few years behind me. But I have a proven track record in 4 years that the other guy's 4-year term does not compare of accomplishment. Some of the things he tried to get done, like infrastructure bill, it kept failing and failing. It worked for me. Obamacare is working for the American people." He detailed all that, and he highlighted his experience and those positives that comes with being 82 years old upon the inauguration, if it is to be. And that's how he ended the speech. A marvelous oratory. He got the point across. And even when he gaffed, even when he made human error, because he was at an accelerated pace, because he was out to prove, to disavow that he was cognitively incapable of serving us as president of the United States. So Sean Hannity comes out and he calls him Jacked Up Joe. Now, the president went the next day he took a victory lap around the country and highlighted some of the things that came out of that State of the Union message. Guess where 45 was? I don't know his name. Guess where he was? He was down here in Mar-a-Lago hosting a Venezuelan dictator whom he had praised. Remember, he has an affinity for dictators. Putin can do no wrong. At some point, the American people are going to wake up and find out just what he holds over this former president. Just what it is, obviously something very deep. We know he tried to rig and probably did. I have people that say that he made the difference in that 2016 election. It was not just an upset. It was not just an anti-Hillary vote. It was that Russian influence, and some things were done mechanically. We can't prove that after the 2020 election, they couldn't prove that the election was rigged, which they're crying all of the election deniers. So the Democrats will take the role of Joe Biden, of Al Gore in 2000, when he lost by a matter of 160 some votes, I think it was, down here in Florida. Is what the Republican Supreme Court selected President George W. Bush, put him in office, and they make him the president. And Al Gore didn't cry one second. We were on democracy when President Nixon did not cry. Well, he probably did in private, but he did not make an issue when there were alleged atrocities in the 1960 election with President Kennedy. Supposedly some things went on in the state of Illinois which tilted that election. President Nixon, when his people were trying to persuade him, he says, no. He says the presidency and the stability of this nation takes precedence over my and our cause. Commendable stances. This guy is still crying that his election was rigged. Yeah, it was rigged. You know, I was rigged because you let million plus Americans die of COVID, and talked about injecting their veins with Clorox, with bleach and those kinds of things, instead of getting a real cure. You attack the CDC, who maybe their methods, there hadn't been a pandemic in a long time, since the 40s, the polio outbreak. You attacked everything that they tried to do, everything that they wanted to do to help the American people along. The only thing of size, no, I'm going to give you credit. You were at the time the highest contributor to HBCUs in this nation. But other than that, the only thing you did was you got a tax break for the upper rich, those who made north of 400,000, the billionaires, the millionaires, the billionaires. That's all you did. This man has gotten the tax He's got the infrastructure bill has gone through. He's got insulin capped at $35 a month for seniors. I can go down the list of accomplishments, but that's what you did. And now you're still crying that the election was rigged. It was rigged because of the job you did during your 4 years. If all of this was not enough, Sean Hannity calling him Jacked Up Joe, making fun of him, 45, making fun of his delivery, his speech. By the way, have any of you seen 45 lately? His slurring in mid-sentence, his stopping, his affinity with President Trump, with President Obama. He thinks he's running against him. How about this one? He talked about Nancy Pelosi was responsible for January 6th. She was responsible for security January 6th. He's cognitively challenged, very, very, very cognitively challenged. No, I didn't forget the best part about that night. Best part about that night, the funniest thing, even after Sean Hannity came on and tried to change the narrative of what had been a very, very, very successful speech. This free advertisement I'm giving this corporation. I'm gonna do something about that. After he said that, and we got our laugh after that, then it was time for the Republican response. Republican senator from Alabama. She came on and gave the response. A lot of people are complaining and saying it was patronized. She's a woman, Katie Britt. She came on and gave the Republican response, and all I could think of the clips that I've seen of the movie Barbie. What was she trying to do? Be a Barbie doll? It was the delivery, the tone of it, the pace of it. It was like, oh my gosh! All I could think was a blonde. Oh goodness! It was unreal. It was embarrassing. As an orator, I was embarrassed for her. I was embarrassed for everything she represented: the Senate, women in politics, the Republican Party. Yeah, I know that's hard. Dozie, you embarrassed the Republican Party? Well, I was, because that was utterly embarrassing. And now they're coming out that she lied, but that's accepted by that side of the aisle. That's accepted over there. 45 can lie and nobody cares. He can lie and it makes him a strong man. It makes him a powerful man. It makes him a dictator. And by the way, why do we want to go back to it? Why do we want to dictate in this country? We fought in the Revolutionary War for democracy. Why a dictator? What's y'all's affinity with the dictator? What does this man hold over you all? What does he do? Is it the racist aspect of his candidacy? That he has empowered racists to come out of the woodworks? Snaggletools from the mountains and everywhere else? Is that why y'all like him? We'll explore that later. But her, now they're discovering that she lied. Specifically, she lied and said that there was a lady that had been unfortunately abused sexually over and over, and she was very graphic in depicting it, saying that it happened over and over in several incidents, several times. She was sexually abused, and she strongly inferred that happened as a result of President Biden's border policies and because of during President Biden's tenure. Well, lo and behold, the fact checkers went out. This was the main one. There were several others. They went out and found out that she straight out lied. That had occurred during President Biden's predecessor's term. And it didn't even occur within the bounds of the United States of America. It happened in Mexico, and she knew that. And whoever her speechwriters knew that. Not only was her pathetically overblown dramatic presentation horrific for the eyes and ears to bear, we also had to be subjected to lies. That was one. I just don't have time to sit down and just go down the list with the lies that she told in the Republican rebuttal. So I'm sure you can find you can find discrepancies and but a straight out and out lie to the American people and present it not dramatically, but ridiculously. That's what happened on Thursday night afterwards. Fast forward to Friday. President Biden's out on a victory lap. He's taunting he's taunting that he was able to construct, he was able to lead a bipartisan compromised bill that was satisfactory to everybody until it was blown up by his political opponent who did not want to give a perceived political victory to him. He taunted that. He taunted the infrastructure bill. I heard him say during the State of the Union message, he asked, why do you accept then? Why are you all accepting? Senator Lane, to his credit, stood and he said, that's true. When he mentioned how they had torpedoed the border bill and how the infrastructure bill was bringing so much, quote unquote, pork and jobs to these states, or these red states where these red Republicans were complaining about. And they readily, of course, accepted it, but sat down when he taunted it, couldn't even give a. And by the way, that's another thing. Did you see Johnson, Mike Johnson, I think this is his name, the leader, the Speaker of the House, who bowed down to the altar of 45, Orange 45, let's call it 45 Orange, who bowed down to 45 Orange and went to Mar-a-Lago and had pictures taken with him just weeks before the State of the Union message, and how he embarrassingly came back and gutted the watching his face contort. I've seen opposite party people sit behind the president, speakers of the House of the opposite party. I'm a speech major. I'm a speech fanatic. So I look at speeches, and we're going to do a show on great speeches. We're going to do that. We're probably going to have some issues with one of our platforms. We'll see how we can do that and get away so we can give some good excerpts, some good speeches. But his face contorted. There were times that he wanted to smile and he had to bite it off because he knew that was this guy in Mar-a-Lago and West Palm Beach that would be upset if he did. It was absolutely crazy. And a camera at the top of the ceiling caught him clapping under the desk that he was sitting at. He was clapping. And if you go back and look, you'll see his hands moving. He was clapping for things that he couldn't clap for publicly. It's just a hypocrisy which epitomizes the other party over there. And I know hypocrisy is a part of politics. Democrats are not immune from it. Independents are not immune from it. But the last 8 years, this mega craziness, extremism that has taken over our country, this wave that is taking over our country, if we let it, hypocrisy has just gone all out of the roof. Unbelievable. What's your impression of the State of the Union? So I had, I'm not going to call a name and I'm not going to identify it, but a person who normally would not be interested in politics, sit down and watch 4 or 5 minutes of it, maybe up to 10 minutes of it, and kind of like, okay, that's not for me. And I know you have to be a outcast like me, a political junkie, to study this stuff and watch it. But as I shared with a group of high school age students, this stuff affects us. It's not just a matter of saying, no, I don't want to see this. It's boring. What does this do for me? Well, what it does for us, and we've been hitting this for the last several weeks strong since Pastor Varner was on him for Faith in Florida. We've been talking about that attitude allows a governor to streak into the White House, into the State House in Florida, Tallahassee, and he goes and he slices everything that has helped to make America good. And so Black history is out of the schools, and all of this stuff is out of the schools. So, Meg, I'm liking your choice of the word. Both parties are culpable in our digression. I agree, Mac, and I don't know where you're coming from on that. I don't know if you're saying that and we need to talk about that, and I'm willing to talk about it tonight. I agree to an extent, but Matt, you don't see the hypocrisy. You don't see the extremism. You want to see is you fought in the armed services. You are USMC. You want to see us go under the hand of a dictator, man, who says, he jokes about, I'll be a dictator for a day. We know his last 4 years demonstrated that that's the propensity of leadership that he leaned to. That's not what we want to be. We're not that kind of country. That's one thing. Democracy goes out the door with him. Racism is ushered in even stronger. Can you imagine? And I don't want to get into a conversation about him right now in that aspect, but 4 years of an unhinged person who's already unhinged, and 4 years with no controls. He has no election to run again for. He has no constraints. Can you imagine that? The last 4 years we were at least his last tenure, the people around him kind of kept, and they were ready to invoke the 25th Amendment. And there were safeguards, guys from the service that served close in his cabinet or on his staff that were prepared to keep him from doing something totally irrational, like putting his hand on a suitcase. But can you imagine him now knowing that what he calls loyalty, bringing his yes men and women back that would let him get away with anything? Because he is definitely brainwashed a large sector of America. We need our politicians to be held accountable. 45 has to be the worst ever. But yeah, we do. Well, that's what every 4 years, it's a system of accountability. Every 4 years, you first have to be selected by your party, nominated by your party. Then you have to go out in November and win the elections. That's harsh. That's pretty harsh accountability. But that's also the genius of our framers of the Constitution. These slave owners, they did have some good qualities about it. Okay. Wow. What have we not talked about that's going on in the world today? We know the border's a problem, but it didn't just get to be a problem. President Obama was called the deporter in chief because he deported so many illegal people who are in this country. You have to be careful how you use these terminologies. Maybe this. Well, what would you suggest? Mac is saying that that's why nothing changes. What would you suggest to make it better? What could you? We've looked at the third parties now. Listen, if we interject a third party this year, if they come up with this no labels party, if it comes out and puts up a viable candidate, we already have Cornel West, and I lost oodles of respect for him when he vehemently, whoever paid he and the preacher's son, the radio guy, the TV guy who was on an upward swing, whoever paid them to attack Obama for those 7 years, they finally gave up. The TV guy, Tavis Smiley, lost his platform when all kind of stuff got revealed on him. People always dig up dirt. We always got dirt. So why do that? And Cornel West was part of it. He was quiet as a church mouse during 45's tenure. So these guys stand in the gap. They're ready to take votes from and allow 45 to be reelected. That happened in 1992. President Bush Sr. I know those that you are saying this. Yes, I'm gonna say this. Bush had not done a bad job. I was not unsatisfied with the job he was doing. I like what President Clinton, some of the things he did. It's the last time we've had a balanced budget in this country. But you know what propelled Clinton into office? Ross Perot ran as a third party, and those votes came from the Republican side. And so Bush was denied a second term. All right, we're gonna take a break and come back and talk some sports. If you got more politics, Mike, you got some more things you want to talk about, I'm still saving the show. I'm still convinced there's somebody who has the gravitas to get on this show with me and talk. And we bring in, and I'll serve more or less as a moderator. And somebody's going to tell us what is America's affinity with the twice impeached, 4 times indicted, twice sued lately, twice by one lady, massive judgments, whose company is a $500 million settlement that's due in about 2 weeks, I think. He just paid 45 just paid his bond or whatever it is for the money that he owes the lady that the judge says that he raped. What is your affinity with a person of low character? A narcissist, a liar? I mean, some people are liars and you can't tell they're lying. That's not so with this guy. A born liar, just a horrific liar, an abysmal liar. Okay, we'll take a break and we're coming back. Dialogue with Dozie. We appreciate you being with us tonight. So I was going to do a Are You Serious tonight? And I was going to talk about 45, the next day after the election. He's hosting this dictator, Victor Orban from Venezuela. But we didn't do the graphics. We didn't get some stuff done. I didn't get some things done. So I'm just going to kind of let that go this time. You got a break. When we come back, we coming hard. We coming hard for the whole mega, right? Or at least explain to us. Let us know. Let us give us a perspective and rely on our desire for objectivity and realism and truth. Give us that opportunity to sit down. Let's have a real dialogue about this, because it's more than this one man. Because there'll always be one man or one woman like that. And so that's what I want to do. Now we're going to transition to sports. But before we go, I got my boy Bernard Appleback is on. Listen, we are the class of 74, Sandalwood High School, the Saints. We got the ball. Yeah, Sandalwood. Yeah, y'all remember that, Bernard? And there was some incidents that we could talk about, or some we can't talk about. Some funny stuff went on. But my good friend, a retired service person from U.S. Air Force, and Mac he's a strong tenure in the United States Marine Corps. I want to give you guys a chance before we transition to sports. He embodies the mentality of a great many 70 million Americans. I understand that. That's my question. How and why? You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to know how and why. And then just reverse the question. Could Barack Obama get away with just one of the things that he is getting away with? And do you know the one thing that the one left institution of accountability was the court system, and the Supreme Court has done everything to help him to get off or push all of these criminal trials back until after the election, with the hopes that he can get in and pardon himself. You want to know what would really be funny? Suppose they did that. You don't get the documents case doesn't come up. He has a favorable judge down here, the trial judge for that. The January 6th insurrection does not come up. That's the one that Supreme Court mysteriously pushed back to April 22nd. That they even got in on that was unreal after the DC Court of Appeals denied it, and with great merit, great documented merit. And then the other case is the case in New York City, which is going to trial in a few weeks, paying a porn star. And it had federal elections ramifications. And so that's 50-50 so whether or not that'll be started and concluded today. He filed motions, or his people filed motions to try to stop that, along with the immunity absurdity. Yes, he has all of these things going on. So, right, 70 million votes. Bernard, I just want somebody to please tell me why, how could Barack Obama gotten away with one of those? You know, Papa Joe couldn't get away with any of them. Somebody please tell me why. We're gonna do that show. We're gonna do that show. Mac is saying Ed Bloom and his cohorts fixed the whole judicial system. Ed Bloom is here. Is who? I've heard his name recently. Who is he, Mac? So while he's telling us that, we were talking about that 70, the class of 74, Sandalwood High School in Jacksonville. Sandalwood was a unique school, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna have the president of the chairman of the 50th reunion committee come on and talk about that as we get a little closer to the event. But Sandalwood was a unique high school. We were just busting for some of you all. Hey, Bernard, did you finish 3 years at Donnell Cookman? And was Jameswell and Johnson still open? And did those two schools feed over to Sandalwood? And I know it would have been to Stanton if it was still open in full bloom. Was it still open and you guys went to 10th grade from over there? Let me know that, please. I gotta let the committee know that. Sandalwood was a unique school. It was kind of like a hippie school. This was in the maritime. It was almost at the beach in Jacksonville. And some of us were bused over from the west side of Jacksonville. You had some black students that lived in Arlington and the south side that went there. Thankfully, I was able to go there because my mama was employed as a teacher. And I was at a feeder school, and it just made it easy to go there. Eugene Butler for me. Okay. Oh, you were headed to Butler. Okay. Butler, where my cousin went. Okay. So, but did you come from Cookman or Weldon to go to Butler? Because Butler wasn't a junior senior high school, or was it? I don't remember. Mama taught at Butler too. I don't remember. Anyway, lawyer that sues. Oh, okay. So Ed Bloom is one of his chief lawyers. Okay. And we got the case going down in Georgia. I started by saying, thanks, Matt. I started out by saying, wouldn't it be overly ironic if all of those federal cases, he got them pushed back on the calendar or miraculously won them or whatever? And the case that he's trying to stop down in Georgia, which is a state case, he gets convicted for election interference, and he cannot get anybody to pardon him for that. Wouldn't that just be funny? Okay, that the work is funded by conservative trusts and foundations, including Donors Trust, Seniors Freedom Trust. Wow. These are all the people that are supporting 45's. They're supporting him and keeping him afloat legally during this time. Okay, so Bernard went to L. Lewis. Yeah, you really over there. Okay. And you came from over not too far from Mixon side. Okay, so we know where he gets his funding. We know what it does for him, and it's been supported. And then on top of that, he has now got a in-law report. This high ranking, if she's not the head of the Republican committee that's transferring. So all of this money that he's raising is going into his defense, and he's way behind the president as far as collecting, collect money coming in for the election. I know there's a name for it. So Bernard, you went there. Mary McLeod Bethune had a very, I don't know if Mr. Harold Fenderson was there when you were there. He was coach, I think. He came up to Louisville while I was in seminary, and he was like the Mr. Clark. He transformed the Jefferson County school system there. Unfortunately, well, God allowed, he left us not too long after coming up there, but we were good friends. He coached at Mary McLeod Bethune. I coached at Susie Tower, and we when it came to basketball, we got to be very, very close. And yeah, some good old days. We want to talk about that Sandalwood reunion a little bit later. Let's transition to sports for these last few minutes. Can New York legally take 45's money? Let's see. Can New York legally take 45's money? Yes. Matt, you remember Coach too? Great guy. Harold Fenderson, good friend. Uh, there was an age difference, of course, between us because all of us are kind of like together. Uh, I call him Mr. Finderson for the longest, and we used to take our teams down to Daytona. That's how I ended up being employed down there to that big gray wire basketball tournament that they were having. He told me some things. I organized a Frank Hampton tournament there in Jacksonville for the Johnson Branch YMCA for those basketball teams. He said, man, try the things you're trying to do, announcing the players as they come out and that stuff. He said, they got that going on major skills. You got teams from all over. I took my kids down there, and boy, did I learn, but it was a great experience for them and for me also. But Mr. Finderson, Coach Finderson was the one who introduced me to a lot of that. Solid things going on in the world of sports. Free agency. And let me I know the obvious free agency, the obvious thing that we would like to talk about is that the most obvious thing that we normally would talk about is what happened in Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson, after being released from Denver, and Denver taking a big cap hit, and then paying him basically $40,000 a year. And so Pittsburgh gets him a bargain basement. And y'all know I'm a Steeler. That's my number one team. I love me some Jags. I love me I like me some Dolphins. I love the Chiefs. But if they playing in Steel City, I'm going with those Steelers. And I like the Cowboys. So when they signed Dak, I like him. Okay, Mac, I know you like that. But I'm so glad he's going there, and I hope things work out for him, not just because from the Steelers aspect, but for him. Because Russell Wilson will learn a lot of things. Apparently, he had some issues as a teammate, both at Seattle and Denver. There was a lot of jealousy in Denver because things just didn't work out right. But that's how it worked. So who in Pittsburgh is going to be traded? Not that guy. Yeah, I like that, man. I think that's we're going to see how that works out. He has a defense. He has a running game. If that O-line shores up, and they keep that receiver, you're talking about the guy that they had some issues with, Mac, I think his last name is Pickett, or whatever that Tomlin, but Tomlin had the good wisdom, the molding, and to keep him in there. If that's the guy, then I think they're going to be a team to be heard. Maybe Russell or get that team up, that offense up and moving, and then the quarterback will be coming up to a contract in 2 or 3 years. Maybe he would have matured to take that on and take that team and put it back up. I would love to see Mac take his own team and go and win a Super Bowl. He's always going to be told that was what's the jaw? That was his team that won that Super Bowl. But so the obvious thing is that last night it broke that Russell Wilson and Sierra are heading to the Steel City. The other Tony Pollard left Dallas. I know you hate that, man. Derrick Henry is still out there, but Jacobs is going from Oakland to Green Bay. That's pretty significant. But more significant than that, and this is one of the issues that happens in this business, is that they're letting Aaron Jones go. Aaron Jones. I have a Facebook friend named Shay JJ. She was lamenting his loss. She said, this Aaron hurts. The other Aaron was all right, but seeing this Aaron leave hurts. She's a staunch Packer fan, and I have to agree with him. I hope that he goes to one of my teams. I know the Steelers probably won't get him. They got a kid from Alabama. Probably won't go to the Chiefs. Pacheco, earning his worth out there. Don't know about the Dolphins down here. But I know the Cowboys shoot could use Aaron Jones. Can you imagine him on that AstroTurf? They still call it that. Could you imagine him that turf? He would be awesome. Tony Pollard is going to Tennessee. He must have really been upset, Mac, with what's going on there in Dallas, and thought, because I could imagine there was not a whole lot more money. Now, my passion is running backs. I went to Sandalwood because I thought I had a chance to be a running back. I was about this tall in 10th grade. I broke my leg in about 55 places. And so that ended that illusion. But the other side of God let me know that I could do a little something on the basketball court. Got me a scholarship at UCF. But I have an affinity for running backs. I coach running backs the majority of my high school coaching career that this is probably going to be the last year coming up in my 18 years down here in South Florida before transitioning over to the tight ends. But this year, running backs are making in free agency, they're making a few more dollars than what they were wanting to pay them on last year. And I'm glad to see that because you can't not just win with the passing game. The greatest show on turf had Marshall Faulk. You cannot just win with a great passing game. A balanced attack still works in any level of football because you know what frees up a good passing game, a good running game, because you got that fake handoff, and you always got to respect that. You always that play action pass is built off of that. So Russell Wilson went to Pittsburgh. Uh, uh, Tony Pollard went to Tennessee. Derrick Henry is still out there as a running back. The guy, what's his name? Was it Wilson from the towards ACL? The quarterback of the Vikings went to Atlanta. I was hoping Justin Fields was going to Atlanta. I don't really understand that, and so Justin Fields still remains out there, and we don't know where he's going now that Pittsburgh is shut down and Atlanta is shut down. But Saquon Barkley, he's going back home. He's going with the Eagles. That's going to be pretty interesting. I can't really wait to see how that's going to work out. You're going to have a two-headed monster in that backfield because Hurd will be back. Excuse me, Jalen Hurd will be back, and I'm sure he's going to be. That's going to make that if that line is anything powerful, they're going to be really, really tough to deal with. So free agents is abounding. Is it open up this week? And we're going to see a lot more things materialize. But again, kudos to the Steelers. And I agree with my boy Stephen A. He says, if you think for 1 second they brought him in there to be in competition with Kenny Pickett, you probably need to have your sports brains analyzed. You're not going to take a 9-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl attendee, 1-time Super Bowl winner. You're not going to bring him who last year 30 touchdowns over 7 interceptions, I think. You're not going to bring him in and have him compete with somebody. Yeah, you'll have him come in and push that kid, but he's going to be starting quarterback. And we could talk about the way Sean Payton treated him, but that's another show. Thank God he's been moved and he's going on to hopefully better. Let's transition over to the NBA for a second. These races are shaping up, and I know Warriors. The Warriors have they build up. They come out, and I haven't been able to keep up with what's the latest on Steph's ankle injury, but they're not going to get too far. They have the second easiest schedule in the NBA going down the stretch, and hopefully that'll work. But you got to give kudos to Steve Kerr by the way that he. Bernard says Lakers. You got to give Steve Kerr his props by the way he has incorporated and infused that young talent. Yeah, Jason Kuminga complaining on the bench. He came back. Once he settles down and he's in control of himself, he's going to be an awesome talent to deal with. Awesome. He's already very effective. And you still got the other big boy that was just the starter. I can't think of his name. He's undersized for some of these bigger guys, but he holds his own. And Draymond, man, Draymond thinks he's as good as Rob. That ain't so. But he's a worthy defender. Now, let's talk about your Lakers now. Man, as I heard the boy say today, if you got out of Antonio Davis, if you got from Davis consistently what you got last night, it'd be a tough team to beat. But I remember the playoffs last year. The Joker made him look like a little kid. That Jokic, man, he is something else. Denver is as boring as the day is long, and they're longer now. We're in daylight savings time. He is something else. I would have loved to see him against Moses Malone, Hakeem. I would have loved to see. He is something else. I've seen him against the best. I saw him against Brzezinski. Virginia, the center for the don't let me butcher up his name any further. The center for the Celtics, I saw him manhandle him the other night. He is something else. I prefer Pollard was a franchise tag casualty, but never been a number one running back. No, he's not big enough. He's not big enough. He's not big enough to be. So your Lakers, I think I agree with what I heard Shay Sharp say today, Bernard. He says that against any team other than Denver, if Davis plays like he played last night, he'll put them in the conference finals. And I don't disagree with them on that. As much as I like to see the Warriors, I'm a realist. There's just some deficits. I just hope that before that dynasty ends, I hope they can make one more serious run, maybe next year or the following year. I think this year will be a good preparation stage for that if they could do that. I'm going to get a chance to see them against the beloved Heat. The Heat still is a superstar from competing, and that's got to happen in the next year because Jimmy is not getting any younger. He's not getting any resistant to injuries. And you got your boy Bam, who's in a little slump. So I think I've seen Bam play the Joker as well as anybody. And that's still not saying a whole lot because he still scored 30 or 40 points in various games in that series. So, man, it's a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. These are some great times to be living in if you're a sports person, politics. Hey, at the end of the day, it's good to be an American. I'm on with 2 servicemen tonight. My dad was a Marine. My brother Anthony was a Marine. I tout what they do. I tout the service. I have a lot of issues with this nation, but I've been around the world. You cannot tell me that this is not the best thing going, and I'm grateful to the Almighty that this is where He landed me to live out my life's journey. I'm just about trying to make it better, and sitting back and taking stuff is not going to do it. Colin Kaepernick, gonna always major shout out to you, man. We'll let your name and your legacy die, but I won't. You, what you did was you brought a lot of attention, and what happened in Minneapolis with that knee on the neck of their brother up there in 2020, that brought a lot of attention that needed to be. It got us talking. It got us reassessing. I love cops. My brother was a cop. I'm an ex-cop. I love policemen. I really, really do. But like anything, just like America needs reforming, it needs reforming. And these issues and bringing these things to the forefront got us to look at it and bring these to the attention and make it better. That's all I'm saying. There's no defunding the police. Maybe we need to reappropriate some funds to other mental health professionals and other things. But I just want to salute people like Colin Kaepernick that stood up and sacrificed a career to stand up. One of the most exciting Super Bowls we've seen. It would have been great seeing him against Patrick Mahomes in both of their primes. That would have been some kind of a Super Bowl with a similar matching cast with them. That's right. That's right, man. God bless America. That's right. I do agree with that. Anything that you want to be a part of, you better ask God to bless anything that's and when it's wrong, stick around and help make it right. In my pastoral installation at the Macedonia Church in Sterling, Illinois, my pastor at the time, Dr. A. Russell Walker, said, he said that when he was being viewed, or maybe it was right after he had been called to the pastor at the New Zion Church up in Louisville, he said, one deacon looked him in the face. He says, I'm with you as long as you're right. I got your back as long as you're right. And then he said another deacon said to him something that he had never heard before. He says, I'm with you when you're right. He says, and when you're wrong, I'm staying with you to help you to make it right. And I think that embodies what we feel about America. That's what we're about. We want to stay with it and help make it right. The process, some of us love it. Some of us understand the value of it, and some of us understand the price that has been paid for us to get it. And so that's why we fight to maintain it and not lose it to narcissism, selfishness, greed, selfish ambition, being power struck. I know all that comes under the umbrella of narcissism, but that's why we want to stand and help make America great. And my hat's off to Mac, my hat's off to Bernard, my hat's off to Anthony and all servicemen, our dad and all servicemen who served to help make this country better. Hey, as they used to say back in the day, WOBS and WPDQ up in Jacksonville, the clock on the wall says that's all. That's what Joe Bailey, the short, bald-headed man, used to say. Y'all remember him, don't you? He said, the clock on the wall says that's all. Eddie T said, 2 steps to the rear, got to get the heck up out of here. Dialogue with Dozie. It has been a pleasure. It's been a joy. I got 2 of my original buddies. I think I'm going to get with Kim, and we're going to do an anniversary show. June is right around the corner. We're going to do an anniversary show back in Jacksonville. Hey, fellas, please give us a venue to do that show. We're going to do a live show again, and we're going to have a great time and make it a festive occasion. Dialogue with Dozie. We're back at you next Monday night, 8 p.m. right here, Facebook, YouTube Live. We love you. God bless you. Thank you, Go Giga Creations. You're the best.